Welcome back to the channel, Upcyclers. We have a grading reveal today. This one is from CGC. Now, we sent some non-sports cards in. We've got 4 vintage Garbage Pail Kids cards and a couple of 92 Marvel Masterpiece cards. The Marvel Masterpiece cards you've seen before. This is third, fourth time these cards have been graded by various companies. They've become a perfect thing to use for science for these grading experiments, creating this grading content, and really just for all of us together to learn more about, how grading works and, the ins and outs of this company versus that company and really the variance you see from grade to grade on the same card, even sometimes within the same company. This is a very subjective thing. There is a person looking at this and, they may have their own opinions. They may have been trained differently at company A versus company B, new employee, old employee, etc. So let's go ahead and get to it. The first one, this one is not a regrade. This is just a PC card. If I haven't mentioned it recently, I know I've mentioned it in some videos before. Obviously, my channel goes by the San Diego Upcycler, but my name is Rex. So the idea that they made not 1, but 2 vintage Garbage Pail Kid cards with the name Rex, I still think is weird, but I take advantage of that. I'm eventually trying to get a gem in of both of them. I have the other one. It's called Repaired Rex. It's, I think, from Series 4 or 5 in 1986. And then this one's actually from Series 1. I have it in a PSA 9, which is the highest grade I've got. So this one looks super, super, super clean. And I decided to give this one a go and send it into CGC. I actually bought this one raw off of eBay a while back. I've been sitting on it, had it in a one touch. Thought, what the hey, let's see what they have to say about it. I got an 8.5. Now we have these 3, which are regrades. All 3 of these are Series 1 cards that if you go back and find the video where I cracked out a Series 1 pack from a slab and then opened that pack, these were 3 of the cards that came out of that process. I originally sent them to PF. So these were truly pack fresh. I didn't see any, print errors or marks on them. The centering looked generally pretty good. Obviously, this one is maybe a touch low. This one's maybe ever so slightly to the right. This one's a little bit low, but for the quality of printing at the time, these are pretty dang good. And I felt these were undergraded at 7s or 8s, so I decided to crack them and have another go, just for science to see what would happen. So we will start with number 10B, Geeky Gary. He went from a PSA 7 to a CGC 5. That is harsh. But as I'm looking at it, is it a reflection? I see something right there. I can't tell if that's a reflection from this little border on the inside or if that was an indent. There is a little mark right there in the top border. Let's see if I can zoom in for you, like right there. And then there's a slight looks like an indent or a shadow. It's hard to tell when it's in the slab. Now, these are really clear, nice slabs. Say what you want about CGC and, other, the whole scandal that's gone on with the comic book side of things and people opening the slabs up and all that. But the clearness of the acrylic, these are probably my favorite slabs. These and Tag, they're actually very similar to the Tag ones, whereas their label, whereas Tag has it like etched into the acrylic. I actually like the label better because sometimes the Tag one can be a little hard to read because it's kind of small, and if there's something multicolored or white behind it, it's really hard to read. All right, so that's not a great start. Let's go to Frigid Bridget. All right, this started off as an 8, and it went up to a 9. So that's excellent. And I'm sure the only reason it didn't get higher is the top to bottom centering. Otherwise, this card is pretty perfect as far as I can see. I've always wondered on the Garbage Pail Kid cards, and if anybody knows or has an opinion, I'd love to know. Does the actual cut of the where the sticker comes out, is that considered part of the grade? I.e., it's almost like, if you think about it, it's almost like two kinds of centering, right? There's this whole image, the colored part with the white border, and then there's the image itself of the sticker. So if you look at it realistically, over here is a little bigger than over here, and it's kind of tucked up real close to the edge of the sticker there, while not so much there, and there's a pretty gap down there. So I wonder if that the sticker part of the centering is actually something that gets looked at and considered in a grade. Anyway, if anybody knows or has an opinion, please let me know in the comments below. Something I've been curious about. Okay, last one. Harry Mary. 7 to an 8.5. That's great. The last one went up 1 grade. This one went 1.5. So one went down by 2, one went up by 1, and one went up by 1.5. And I'm sure, similar to the last one, a little bit of centering is probably the only difference here. And again, possibly centering of the sticker itself. I don't know. Let me know. All right. And as always, if you enjoy this kind of content, please do like and subscribe. We try to put out a new video every Friday at 11 a.m. We do miss the occasional one. I know I missed last week after New Year's. I was out of town. Wasn't able to make a video. But anyway, we are continuing towards attempting to get to that magic 1,000 subscriber mark, so I can start to make literal cents and the occasional dollar off of these videos, which I will, of course, invest right back into these videos and the channel to create more awesome content like this for y'all. Okay, the last two are really interesting. Okay, so this is a 92 Marvel Masterpiece Black Panther. I've got another one. The Wolverine we'll do next. So this started out life as a BGS 9.5, with a 9 corner and the rest 9.5s. I bought it like this with the intention of trying to cross it over to PSA, hoping to get a PSA 10 as I'm working towards a complete PSA 10 set of 92 Marvel Masterpiece. I sent it to PSA and got a 9. So, since a 9 in this set really isn't worth very much, I was going to lose money selling it. So I decided, well, BGS thought it was a gem mint. It was probably borderline, realistically, for PSA. And, that overall order, the grades were on the harsher side. So I decided to crack it and give it another go at PSA and see if we got lucky. Because really, the 10 was the only thing that mattered to me. Because at the time, I needed it for the set. I subsequently was able to work out a deal with someone and actually buy a graded PSA 10 copy of this card. Separate story. So anyway, I cracked it out, sent it back in, and got a 4. Now, I can only assume that it got the 4 because it must have been damaged somewhere in the cracking process or the shipping back to PSA process or the grading process. I cracked it out and looked at it. If you scroll back through my channel, there's a video about that. And I couldn't see anything obvious. So I was very confused. And so I decided to include it with this order just for science, because really PSA 4 is probably worth less than it was raw. So there really was no real risk here. So I decided, what the hey, let's send it to CGC and see what they think. So without further ado and me talking, it got a 4. So they agree. So there must be some damage, and it usually is on the back. There's got to be like an indentation or a crease or something that, I don't know. I'll try to get it nice, move it around. Any of you see anything or have any thoughts on this one, please let me know. But yeah, so we have managed to turn a BGS 9.5 into a CGC 4. So this one definitely falls into the taking a massive fat L category. But you know what? It's okay, because I really just it was kind of a PSA 10 or nothing for me in this one particular case because of the set I'm working on. So, sometimes you roll the dice and you win, sometimes you roll the dice and you lose. For me, getting stuff graded at these companies, is the same, roll of the dice, pull of the slot machine type deal. I understand it as, opening a pack or pulling an actual slot machine. So it is what it is. Now is where it gets real interesting. Obviously, I have seen these grades ahead of time because I had to, arrange the labels in a way so I could film this. So this one also began life as a BGS 9.5, a true 9.5, all four subgrades of 9.5. This is Wolverine. Um, a lot of these other grading company cards sell for less than their PSA equivalent, and a lot of what drives the market for this, especially on the PSA 10s, are the set collectors out there on the set registry for PSA. So while at the time I was trying to get this card, it was a $250 to $350 card in a PSA 10. I got this for I think a little under $100 in a BGS 9.5. Same with the Black Panther I showed you before. That was like $60 or $70. I think it was a PWCC auction. Anyway, my thinking was, great, get those two, send them in. Even if I hit one of them at PSA, we should be good to go. I also had a Spider-Man as well. And this also got a 9, just like the Black Panther. And I said, you know what? I'm going to send it back to PSA because for the same reason I did the Black Panther to C, and it dropped down to an 8. So we went from a 9.5 to a 9 to an 8. So at that point, I'd be lucky to get $20 for it in an 8. And I didn't feel like cracking it out and sending it to PSA again. I mean, technically, I could probably keep cracking this thing. That's the funny part about grading, especially with the inconsistency of PSA. There's probably some legitimate damage to that Black Panther I'm just not seeing. But a card like this, I could probably just keep cracking it and resending it. And there's probably about a, 10 to 15% chance of it pulling a 10 each time I do it. So I could just keep pulling that slot machine until the proverbial 3 cherries comes up and I get the 10. Now, I did actually pick up another copy of this card as well. So I don't really need it in a 10 anymore. So it was worth sending it to CGC for science. And lo and behold, CGC gave it not just a 10, but the gold label pristine 10, which is effing wild to me. I'm almost speechless at this. And I mean, you could see from the rest of the order, it wasn't like a soup, like all these cards came back in like 9s and 10s and they were just like throwing them out. Like several of them went down. The highest grade I had on the other cards was a 9. And they just looked at this card and were like, yeah, that's the jam. That's the card. This card is perfect. Now, this lines up really realistically with what BGS originally thought. Like if I'd never done the PSA thing and I just cracked it and sent it directly from BGS to CGC, this would not be that surprising. But the fact that PSA has given it an 8 and a 9 in 2 runs through is surprising. So here we go. We now have a Pop 1, and I don't believe there are any BGS 10s or black labels or SGC gold labels of this card. I'll double check it, and if there is, I'll mention it here when I edit this. But, one could make the argument that this card in my hand is the highest graded, nicest example, potentially most valuable copy of this particular card in existence, which is wild. I'm really not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm not like a Wolverine collector. I'll probably sell it, but I would love to know your opinions on how this all went down and what you would do with this particular card. And if there's anybody out there that's really, salivating for this card and you're a massive Wolverine collector, hit me up. Maybe we can make a deal. In any event, this has been another educational experience for myself and hopefully for you in the world of grading. like I said earlier, we try to put out this kind of content weekly on Friday mornings at 11 Pacific time. And please do like, subscribe, and I appreciate your time watching the video. And if you made it to the end, double thank you. And have a great rest of your day. Happy New Year.